Matthew was out at a meeting for work, which his wife expected to have gone on for a few hours more, but the meeting ended a few hours early, which afforded Matthew to drive home a few hours earlier. Matthew knew that his wife Susan was a bit distant lately, and he expected she was cheating, but what he would see when he got home made him feel so angry he felt like going into the bedroom and killing his wife and lover. But he knew he had to wait for the right time. He felt his blood boil when he saw his wife in bed with another man. Matthew set up hidden cameras around his house and used to monitor them from his office at work. The cameras only went on when there was movement, to avoid him from having to trawl through tons of footage. One night he saw his wife and lover talking in the bedroom, and they were organising to drive out to a really beautiful spot he knew. When he heard the conversation, all of a sudden the spot he knew brought a whole new beautiful meaning to him, because he knew exactly what he would do. The next night Susan was driving in her car with her lover. She smiled, saying to him, "This is such a beautiful spot. I used to come here with my husband. The view is so beautiful. It's just down the road." Jack, her lover, said, "If it's just down the road, why don't we just walk?" She smiled back and said, "Because I always use the car to get here, because you can have a lot of fun in the car, if you know what I mean." With that, Susan got an awful fright as she realised she could not slow the car down. Herself and Jack screamed as the car went faster and faster towards the edge of the cliff. Matthew was driving behind, smiling to himself as he saw the car drive right off the cliff. He parked the car and smiled. Susan said to Jack, "Jump out of the car. Jump quick now." They both jumped before the car went off the cliff. Susan walked up behind her husband, who wanted to have killed her, and was smiling, thinking he did kill her, and she hit him with a rock, knocking him off the edge of the cliff to his death. Susan knew that she had to put on an act of the grieving wife. Poor Susan, her husband, drove off a cliff in an awful tragic accident and perished to his death. All the while Susan thought about this and the act of the grieving wife, she smiled, and then she hugged and kissed her lover. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you want to stay up to date on new content, then please subscribe and be sure to hit the bell to be notified on new content. Julie and Jake were having a difficult time in their marriage. They decided to take a train journey across America. What Julie hadn't known was Jake, her husband, only organised the journey to organise a hitman to kill her on the train. Julie was sitting down reading a book, while Jake said he was going to get a drink in the train's bar. As Julie was reading, a man sat down next to her, introducing himself as Andy, and asked her for the time. Julie found it strange, knowing these days anyone should have the time when they have a phone. The man introduced himself to Julie. This was all part of Jake's plan. 15 minutes later, Jake had arrived, and as planned, he told her an old friend of hers was in the next carriage. He recognised me and was asking for her. Of course, there was no school friend. The plan was that the hitman pushed Julie out of the train door when she went to see what friend. Jake hoped she'd take the bait and smiled when she did. Julie walked towards the door. Jake would have loved to have watched it happen, but knew it would be too obvious. The hitman was wearing gloves and an aesthetic face, just in case there were cameras they missed scoping the train out a few days ago. Jake had planned to walk up to the next carriage in about 15 minutes to get clarification the job was done. He was about to walk into the next carriage when the man said, "Hi sir, nice journey, isn't it?" Jake smiled, knowing those were the exact words he was meant to say. Jake replied, "Is the job done?" The man said, "Well, I got to chat a lot with your wife. She seems a very nice lady," but most importantly, he was looking behind Jake's shoulder at this moment. Jake turned around to see what he was looking at, and with his shock, he saw Julie staring at him with hatred in her eyes. The man continued to speak. "More importantly, your wife. She seems to be a very sweet lady, and may I say, a very beautiful lady." Jake was dumbfounded and said in a confused tone, "What's going on here?" Julie spoke. "Let me explain. And this hitman here who goes by the name of Andy, which I call Andrew, is not just a regular hitman. We have been dating for the last 6 months. Wait, should I change that to we have been having an affair for the last 6 months?" And she gave a sinister smile. Jake didn't know what was happening. He spoke quietly so no other passengers could hear him. "What is happening here? How do ye know each other?" Andrew explained. "When you first made contact with me, did you not realize it was me who first made contact with you?" Jake still couldn't understand how a hitman he hired on the dark web could have been having an affair with his wife he ordered to kill before he even made contact. Jake said, "Wait a minute, you said you made contact with me first." Suddenly Andrew said, "Well, we told a tiny lie, but it's not about me making contact first." With that, Andrew pulled off his prosthetic mask, revealing the face of their marriage counsellor they had for the last 6 months. It was Andrew and Julie were having an affair, and because of Julie not trusting her husband, she checked his phone one time when he left it on the bed for 5 minutes while he shaved. Just as he left, she picked it up in order to not have to put in any code that she knew she wouldn't be able to guess. He'd just been on it, so she didn't have to put in any access code. She went through it and came across a text that said all the information and money needs to be transferred to this email address. I will have the job done once the money is sent through Bitcoin to this account. Julie had no idea what it was, but sent an email saying, "I will send the money, but I need to know exactly what you're going to do. I need to know exactly every detail of what I'm paying for." Julie changed the real email, so no matter what email Jake sent would not get sent and would not be received by the hitman. But she changed it by adding a dot that was barely seen. But Julie kept contact and brought the hit forward, of course, with the real hitman thinking he was in contact with Jake. Julie had been on the train waiting for the hitman to arrive, and when he did, there were undercover police ready to arrest him as soon as he asked for the time. They waited until a guy with a prosthetic face of Jake clarified with the hitman did he finish the job. Then the undercover police moved in. The real Jake was shocked to learn that the hitman was arrested a week ago, and he was going to be arrested Now, Julie looked at him and said, "You son of a bitch." Jake was looking forward to fly across the Sahara Desert because he knew he had to in order to go to where he was going in Africa. Everything was going smoothly and the flight was even practically turbulence-free. He sat back and read a book, enjoying the flight. When the plane reached the Sahara Desert, he admired the view out of the window, which was beautiful. It was a dream come true for him, as he always was interested in deserts growing up. He wondered what would it be like actually down there walking around. Suddenly the plane made a certain jerk. Everyone got a start, but when the plane started flying as normal again, they relaxed again and enjoyed the flight until a few minutes later there was a huge explosion and the plane made a dive into the desert. Within what seemed like minutes but must have been only seconds, the plane crashed into the desert. There was another big explosion and sounds of the passengers screaming. The heat of the desert was exhausting and terrifying, and within a few days the water and food in the plane was gone. Jake and the rest of the passengers were losing hope of any help coming. People were dying from heat exhaustion and hunger now. He knew that you could go longer without food than water. Well, he thought so anyway. He was feeling confused, as so were the rest of the passengers. Everyone survived the crash, but now ironically they were all afraid they were going to lose their lives from hunger and heat exhaustion. "I have an idea how we can get food." Everyone looked at him, wondering what he was going to say, anxious as to know what glimpse of hope he could possibly provide by saying he had an idea how to get food. Then he spoke again. "There is a coffin on the plane. It is being brought over for a funeral." Everyone sighed in disgust, but within 30 minutes, the passengers gathered around the coffin, ready to start eating the corpse. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content.